Welcome, everyone. Welcome for this next hour. We are going to have an awesome time talking about the top production use cases for Azure AI and other AI use cases within your business. I'm going to show you how companies are getting started with this, how they're making progress, how they're moving into production, and I'm going to walk through in production use cases, showing you the example, walking through how they did it, give you some ideas to go back to your business with that are going to help you accelerate your movement into getting value from AI. So just to introduce myself a little bit, I'm Nathan Lesnowski. I'm Concurrency's Chief Technology Officer. Been working with AI for about 8 years. That 8 years has been an awesome journey helping customers see ROI from this. And it's been accelerated in a completely insane way around the last year as companies have really seen the light bulb of what AI can do for them and have been excited about turning it on and making it a thing within their organization. And I'm looking forward to talking more about it. So let's dive in. So what you can see in front of you is a representation of how AI has changed and will change, how the market has changed over time in respect to the GDP, production of GDP. And what's really interesting about this is how mass production, transportation, and communication has changed the way that we are able to produce goods within the world. This opportunity that AI presents to us, I would say, is underestimated by most business users, underestimated by most business executives. Now you could say like, wow, how is that possible? Like, how could you possibly be underestimating AI at this point? Like, there's so much hype, there's so much buzz. How could the hype not be big enough? Well, in a sense, like the hype might be big enough, but when I talk to typical executives, they're thinking about value streams, they're thinking about opportunities to enable their business with artificial intelligence. They're thinking about the mission of their business, but sometimes they're not thinking about every individual within their organization is going to be impacted by this. Every individual in our economy is going to see change as a result of artificial intelligence. In the same way that smartphones change the way we work, the internet changed the way we work, PCs changed the way we work, mass production changed the way we work. And this is our opportunity, not only to look at the future of our businesses through the lens of AI, but also the opportunity to look at the future of our people through the lens of AI. So as you leave this conversation today, think about the mission of your business and think about how the mission of your business will change as a result of enabling artificial intelligence as part of that picture. But even more so, think about every person that enables the mission of that business and how they will be enabled by AI and our responsibility to help them make that journey real. And as you see, as we go through many of these use cases, you're going to see how people's job roles are changing as a result, not being eliminated, but changing as a result, being force multiplied as a result, enabling them to gain their ability to use their creativity to achieve good within their mission. So I want you to know three things. The first thing I want you to know is that the AI opportunity is for real. This isn't a science experiment. It's not a situation where we're just talking about doing things with AI. This is an AI opportunity that will have real and lasting impact on the operational savings and revenue production of your business in the context of its mission. What you will see with the examples that I'll show you are companies that are getting real value. And those are opportunities that you should bring back into your organization to be able to translate those ideas into real value for your business. And we'll help you do that. What you can see here as well is that operational savings tend to be the low-hanging fruit. The reason why they tend to be the low-hanging fruit is because they're there. They're there to take advantage of. They're there to drive efficiencies from. They're processes that you're running right now that if you really had to do it again, you would change the way that you executed on that process. And a lot of times the data is ready to be able to gain those operational savings. The third thing is that revenue production is a very real and tangible opportunity within most organizations, both incrementally doing the same thing you do right now faster and also within the disruptive space. So take these tangible things to know and bring them back to your organization, buoyed by all these scenarios that we'll walk through as a component of this presentation. So I want everyone to take a second and put in the chat or just kind of contemplate this to yourself. So you put in the chat, that's even better, is Where are you as a business in this adoption cycle? Are you at executive alignment, where you're just getting the organization understanding what the mission of the business looks like through the context of AI? What are the guardrails we're placing around it? How do I engage in incremental and disruptive innovation within my organization as a result of AI? Or have you already started brainstorming as a result of that executive alignment? You're now at a point where you're understanding the use cases and how it translates into activity that you're going to be performing. Or are you in a position?
Excuse me, Nate. Where your slides are not moving along. So if you can change it to a presentation view.
Oh, thank you for telling me that. One moment.
Sorry. Let's see here.
You know, I've had that problem now a couple times. That's why I was checking that. Okay, you should see this now. This is going to make a lot more sense now that you are seeing the screen. Okay, thank you for correcting me on that on that, Amy. Okay, so here are back this up just one moment. Here is the AI adoption cycle. These are the three that we've just walked through: is executive alignment, group envisioning, and now we're moving into this idea of understanding mission-driven versus commodity use cases. So this idea that there are use cases we'll talk about today that are very focused on direct revenue production and direct operational savings. And in order to achieve those, you have to be precise in the way that you're answering a question, or you're providing an answer, or you're delivering on prescriptive results. There's another lane here, which is the commodity uplift. And if you want to think about the commodity uplift lane with an example, that would be something like spell check. Okay, so when I write an email, and I'm writing that email and I have a word that I'm not sure how to spell, I don't go pull out my dictionary and find that word and then type it and then continue on my life, right? I have this auto change that happens to the word that I'm writing as I go. And sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's not, based upon autocorrect, and we have all the funny jokes on autocorrect. But ultimately, it's a drastic time savings in me writing emails. Commodity uplift is going to be that times 100 in terms of our ability to produce. One of our colleagues likes to say, never produce a draft again. And this is really the M365 Copilot space. It's other Copilots being released as parts of your SaaS platforms that you use in the market. And your organization needs to be ready not only to intake those commodity use cases, but then to think about what's really unique about you. And that's these mission-driven scenarios that you pull forward into piloting it, validating it delivers value, moving into production iteration, and then going after a scaled pattern, which is, how do I do this again? And how do these all fit together? So how does a individual production use case I've built fit into perhaps another individual production use case in the same organization, maybe even solving some of the same problems, but might have to have a different kind of answer structure. So the AI adoption cycle fits across this entire ecosystem. But what I'll tell you is a lot of companies try to start here. They try to start with enabling the technology rather than focusing on gaining adoption and alignment at the executive level, and by widening the tent in the business to understand the right scenarios to go after within their organization. So as we get started with this, I want you to consider this example. So this is a customer service page on Choice Hotel Group. And what you'll notice about it is that it's an experience that at one point was pretty transformative. Like, we were very used to calling into sort of IVR systems to be when we had a customer service issue, and we'd wait on hold and we'd talk to someone, and then we'd wait on another hold and we'd talk to someone. And they built this platform that you can go to their customer service page and put in your question and your name, and they'll call you back. Okay, like the callback scenario. That was really cool at one point. No longer is this state of the art. In fact, this really misses my expectation when I have a customer service issue. What I'm expecting in this scenario is to be able to open up a chat application and be able to start talking immediately in an asynchronous way with a human or with a bot that's going to solve my issue. And I had a similar example of this where I had booked a hotel room. That hotel room was booked for the wrong day, opened up a chat application without having to stop what I was doing, and corrected that reservation that I had without ever having to get on the phone with a person. So what this really represents to me is you need to meet the customer where they're at, and you need to meet the customer with where their expectations are in terms of what normative experience should look like or better. And in this case, what they have right here used to be state of the art, no longer is. Now, look at this example. This is the Hyundai Palisade. The Hyundai Palisade has tried to have a chat application. Let's see what they're doing. What kind of gas should I use in my Palisade? And they try to answer the question, but they can't. Can you please say this in a different way? I answer best when asked short, general questions. And when I look at that, I'm like, aren't you the app for the Hyundai Palisade? Like, I think ChatGPT knows more about your van or truck than you do. Why can't you answer this question? So if you attempt to go down the road of creating something, remember, you're going to be measured against the state of the art. So we were building an application, this was many years ago, we were building this application with a search bar. And the search bar could only search for things that you spelled correctly. So like if you spelled the word wrong, it wouldn't find the right destination answer. And they're like, oh, this is working really well, check it out. It's like, no, it's not working well because you're being measured against who? You're being measured against Google in the search space. And if your measurement doesn't measure up, you're not going to be looked at favorably. Same thing with AI. In the chat space, if you're not comparable against something that someone's going to get from ChatGPT, you're not going to be looked at favorably in the virtual assistant space. So think about the quality level that's necessary to achieve success. But there's one really fantastic thing. The bar to get in to have that level of quality has been lowered because the capabilities are becoming more commoditized. And that's some of the things I'll show you today. So as you think about your ideas, I want you to think about them in two different major buckets. The first bucket is the incremental bucket. These are things you already do. We just want to do them faster or easier or with higher customer sat. We're not changing the business per se. We're driving efficiency within the business. And then there's this other side, which is the disruptive innovation. And disruptive innovation is essentially, if I had to start my business over again, how would I bring to market my business with AI? And sometimes the hardest organization to disrupt is yourself, especially when your organization is successful, because you're making money and you're reacting to threats and you're incrementally improving your product. But on the side comes this other organization that maybe offers a product that's less feature rich at a lower price or a more incremental value stream and enables a set of customers to onboard that wouldn't have done business with you because of where you are in the market, or starts to pull customers away from you because of the way they're going to market. So I'm working with a customer that is bringing to market the ability to create financial packages with customers that alternatively would have required a loan officer. Now, not requiring that loan officer, they're able to take $2,000 to $3,000 off of that process. This ability for them to engage in the market and completely disrupt the existing business model that exists. So this is the kind of value analysis that you should look to create. As you go through the executive alignment and your envisioning sessions, you want to generate a value analysis where you're able to clearly understand the categories, value descriptions. Is it operational savings or revenue production? How hard is it to do? Like, sometimes your moonshot idea that's not ready yet, that you're going to put investment behind, isn't the first thing you're going to focus on because it's not ready. Maybe the data is not ready. Whereas a contract review process could be done tomorrow. It's an easy use case to go after. So I encourage every organization to be very prescriptive about where you put your eggs in what baskets, and focus energy around getting those ideas that get cut down into your focus list. Broaden the tent of engaging your teams. So let's talk a little bit about use cases that organizations are taking advantage of. So on the left-hand side here, you can see this customer service use case. This is probably the most popular use case of them all. And the reason why is because we have a lot of opportunity to leverage data we already have, manuals or customer support data or knowledge-based data, to be able to answer questions from customers or enable customer support teams to be able to provide faster return on resolution to our customers. The less time that our customers sit in unhappy states, the better. How can I improve their experience with my products? The next use case is things like order status, where's my thing, when is it being delivered, tends to be very, very popular, especially predicting and providing better data to your customers so you set better expectations. Sales quoting acceleration, any scenario where I can reduce the amount of time a customer needs or number of steps they need to take or information they don't have between their interest and being able to transact with me is a win. How can I shorten that cycle and drive up accuracy so when they do transact, they get the best possible outcome? This is an area of dramatic revenue increase because if I can outcompete my competitors on time or price or the approach that I'm using with information, I'm going to win more deals. Data mining, the ability to ask questions of business systems and provide information back. And then this scenario here, process automation, anything you do a lot, invoices, PO review, running a financial process of approval, preparing notes from sales calls, any scenario where you're having to do something over and over again or as a normal part of your business process, generative AI has a capability to help. So this all fits into a broader set of use cases that I'm not going to go into every single one of these, just that know that generative use case matches up to situations that we've been doing forever. So over here, you're seeing things like supply chain and predictive maintenance. Those are some of the first AI projects we did 8 some years ago that are generating revenue savings or operational savings and revenue production right now because they're old use cases. And what you're finding from many of those use cases is all the chips they had to put on the table in order to pursue those, say 7, 8 years ago, you don't have to put as many chips on the table anymore because much of that has been automated. So we're getting to a point where many of these use cases you're seeing on the table here are opportunities for us to get involved and get engaged without as much investment in order to get started and to get outcome. So before I get into showing you some of those examples, I want to hit on some of the concerns that many organizations have as they get started. The first concern is data privacy. Everybody has this sort of fear, uncertainty, and doubt regarding what about data privacy and what happens to my data once an AI system starts using that and doing something with it. The thing I want you to remember is that any business system that's leveraging artificial intelligence is going to use private instances of these platforms, private instances of GPT models, private instances of machine learning models used for things like supply chain, private instances for analysis of images. These are all private instances. They're not data that's shared with anyone else besides you and your business users that need to use it. Also, being able to filter that data to the right people so the right people see the right data and don't see the data they shouldn't see is an important construct of just building a successful AI platform. This next scenario is data not being ready. So often I see organizations say, we'd love to do AI, but our data isn't ready. Well, data readiness isn't a broad concept. It's a focused concept. It's an understanding of, is data ready for my use case? And how can I take a revenue production or operational savings oriented view of how I enable data readiness for my organization? And this allows you to take a use case first approach that's tied to value rather than just like, I'm going to lift all the data and then I can go to the ball. Like, then I'll be able to have data value from it. No, focus on how I drive value from data by not only showing data, but getting prescriptive with data and enabling it to be able to drive actual outcomes. This middle use case we talked about, human displacement, people are concerned. You'll start talking artificial intelligence and they think, how does this impact me? How does this impact my job? What is the future of my job in the context of leveraging artificial intelligence? Get in front of this. The best leaders I see in AI are the ones that bring their team together and enable them to see the future that's going to exist as a result of AI by helping them to be able to drive value from it. Human displacement is about human enablement and enabling it to switch around to make them part of the solution, broadening the tent of who's involved. Hallucination, one of the bigger probably the second biggest topic is hallucination. The idea that as I build one of these systems, how do I make sure that what it provides back to my customers or to my internal users is accurate? This is where not only are you able to start driving those advancements around quality yourself in your AI models, but oftentimes, like, we're not measuring the processes as they stand. Like, I don't even know if the humans are doing it right. And this is a great place for us to be able to evaluate, are we providing the right answers to customers? What is our accuracy? Is our production forecast accurate? To what extent is it accurate today? And how do we compare that against how we can improve it in the future? And then very closely tied to quality is bias. How do I ensure that as I build an AI system that I'm fairly engaging the data to provide accurate results? Am I enabling good outcomes as results of that data? Are the outcomes that I'm enabling ones that are enabled by correct data? Am I using good data to be able to produce that AI model? This all factors into the picture as well and is super important on any use case that you pursue. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some examples. So I'll walk you through a whole bunch of different types of examples that customers are using. So I've been using this example for a while. I think it's a great starter example because it's very tangible. This idea of surfacing information from documents. This is an example of a boat that is being surfaced for customer service purposes and for sales purposes. So this is a Brunswick Sundancer 370. You can see that I'm asking a question about the Sundancer 370. It's providing me a very reasonable response, and it's giving me a citation as to where it got that data and providing me the ability to be able to see that information on the right-hand side. You can also see I'm asking about the draft or the maximum speed, and then here you can see where I'm getting that data within the actual document and surfacing it back to the customers. Why is this so important? Well, I want a customer to have a great on-boat experience. And they don't have a great on-boat experience if something goes wrong or they don't know the right information about the boat. So for example, I happen to have one, not this specific boat, but I have a Sea Ray boat, and it had a failure occur to it, and I had to try to fix it. And I spent 4 hours just trying to figure out what kind of lubricant I had to put in to solve for this light that came on in the boat. And this is the case for many, many use cases with manufacturers or with customer service scenarios where you go out to the site and you're like, I can't make heads or tails of this. Like, this is like, what boat do I have? There's like 62 different boats listed here. Like, how do I even know what I bought 5 years ago? This is an opportunity for us to be able to ease the customer through the process of being able to answer questions that they have. This is another customer service scenario for Generac. So Generac has a internal chatbot. Its goal is to answer questions about standby home generators. This is a question being asked about that generator. This is the AI response associated with it. And you can see I'm pointing to a source. I'm giving a sort of question, ability for me to ask, how is this going for you? Like, is this answering the question? Is it not answering the question? And the result of something like this is I can enable customer service teams to be able to answer questions faster. Don't you always hate it when, like, you call in and you get put on hold? Like, I always hate that myself. Like, man, like, I just hate being put on hold. Can I enable that individual to not get put on hold? Can I enable that question to be answered more quickly and with greater accuracy? And then measure over time, is that question answered accurately? So really cool use case, something that's going to provide a ton of value and eventually get put right in front of the customers so they can answer their own questions. This is where it starts to get really cool. So what you can see here is I'm starting to do things in a multimodal way. So this is an instruction catalog for a IKEA shelf. I've spent many long hours putting together IKEA stuff. And I can say that the instruction manuals are pretty good, actually, sometimes. But it's something that AI would not have been particularly good at diagnosing or understanding. Reason why is because I would need to say, let's train it on what a hammer is. Let's train it on what a screw is. Let's train it on what a shelf piece is and how that this is it being put together. And like, here's this other piece here. We'd have to train it on all those sub elements. So how do I get value from this? I think 2 days ago, Microsoft released for use the ChatGPT V capabilities. And what GPT V does is enables the model to be able to understand and inspect information that exists within visual senses, not just text. So many of the manuals, they can, like for that boat, for example, there's a manual that has an image of the cockpit, and that image of the cockpit has a key on it, A, B, C, D, E, and it's pointing to different things. And you say, like, where is the throttle? Well, just for creating an AI model on that in the past is really complicated because you had to train on all those pieces. Now I can bring that to market faster. You can see right here, it knows what's happening in step 7. I'm asking the question, it's doing that correctly. It's providing me what's happening in step 7 in a text-based format. So this is an example of that being used for defect detection. So this is a successful screw. We're giving an example of successful, like this is what a screw should look like as it comes off of our supply chain, right? Here's a bunch of other screws. Which of these are good screws? So you can see here, the screw head within the green circle is a standard for a non-defective piece. I will compare. Number 1 is defective. Number 2 is not defective. So 1 defective, 2 not defective. What this is doing is it's enabling us to be able to tell it what good looks like and then provide answers for what not good looks like very quickly, providing value back to the organization to be able to do that inspection. And this is something that we could do with traditional machine learning techniques, but not as fast. Now we can do it much faster and provide much more input. Now here's where it gets really cool. Check this out, okay? So this is a video of a guy walking around a car. Imagine that you got in an accident, okay? I know that's not super fun, but like imagine something happened to your car. And you're walking, I hit a deer recently, and like it was a big pain in the butt. And walking around and taking a video of the car. And then what happens as a result of that is you are having to write up as an insurance agent, like what happened with that vehicle. So this is then a description that was produced via AI of what happened with that image, that vehicle. The rear side of the blue Toyota Camry has sustained significant damage characterized by deep scratches and scuff marks, blah, 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 right? This enables insurance. It enables repair shops. It enables the manufacturers to know how damage is sustained in certain types of use cases. Think about vision in this context that like, I don't have to have a person create that draft. Maybe I have to have a person review the draft and know what happened, but I don't have to have a person create the draft. I can force multiply that individual and enable them to get more done. Or maybe just not have to do this particular part of the task. Maybe they can interact with the individual who sustained the damage. Or the person can just take their own phone and do that themselves and then have it input that as part of the app for video insurance. This is where GPT-V gets really rad. Like the ability to take this kind of content and combine it then with the text-based content to produce real outcomes is just amazing stuff. And you can see how this is just going to keep driving and creating, for lack of a better word, more and more capabilities out of what AI can create within our businesses. So this sort of video engagement is going to be really cool. Okay, so next use case. You know, one thing I forgot to mention is as you are having additional questions, feel free to drop those things in the chat. I would love to answer other questions near the end or as we're going as you have them. All right, so this is an example of accelerating sales to close. So in this use case, what we're doing is taking the natural language processing and we're inspecting a question from a customer, and then we're taking that request to quote something. We're extracting the necessary information, and then we are producing the quote. We're accepting it or modifying it, and then we're turning that into the actual quote that gets sent back to the customer. Does that remove the human completely from that process? No, they're still getting the prepared asset to review. They either modify it or accept it and they send it back. You could potentially take a subset of that, let the customer self-quote. In that case, the customer's reviewing the quote themselves, gets sent forward. What we're doing here is reducing the time to quote. So in this case, we're taking time to quote for this customer from hours down to minutes. Just think about the aggregate time savings of that. In this case, the customer has 600 sales reps. 600 sales reps, for all the quotes they do, from hours down to minutes. Like, that is a ridiculous kind of improvement from their ability to engage their customers. This is also being used for use cases where you're trying to optimize price. So I have a customer I'm working with where they have a set of price they use on the external website. They have a set of price they use on their internal users when they quote, and they're trying to normalize those across how they are delivering quotes to their customers. They can use AI to be able to optimize that quoting process to be able to provide the best price for the opportunity for the customer and for themselves so they gain the right margin. So sales quoting is a great opportunity within our accounts. You can also take this into complex order flows, ones where you're delivering a CAD drawing, for example. Like say that this requires a CAD drawing. And in order to do something with it, I need to inspect that CAD and know the components of it, know if it's put together properly, know if the measurements are right, understand where there's flaws within the way that they've designed it. These are areas where we can apply AI as well to be able to provide the right kinds of outcomes. Ultimately getting to points where you might be doing AR experiences to help someone generate the right platform. So this is a window manufacturer generating a AR window and saying, here, it fits inside of this spot. What's the right window that would fit here? Groom out all the things not appropriate for my location or region, and let's walk through the example of how I could build a better experience for that customer. What's necessary to solve for this is the schema that exists underneath it. So sometimes when people say data is not ready, this is a good example where you really need the data ready, right? You need the data for the schema to be able to serve what the customer is going to be able to do from a AR experience, and then ultimately produce the install guide that's being used by the customer. So there's opportunities for really game-changing things. In this case, you're really getting around the idea of the guy going to Home Depot and talking with the person who pulls out the book and like walks through in the book what they're going to select and like doesn't really know, and then calls a second guy to your house to do the measurements and stuff. It's like a terrible experience. Imagine if I was doing this all in a self-quote and I could visualize it right in the comfort of my own home. This is where AI is enabling some really game-changing experiences using text and video. All right. So let's move into the supply chain use cases. Supply chain is one of the older but more valuable opportunities within your organization. So this example is from 2018. And the reason I say that is because I want you to know this is not a new concept. Getting value from your supply chain and applying AI to it is not a new concept, but it is a concept that the cost of engaging continues to be reduced. So in this case, this is a $2 billion organization. They remanufacture cell phones and ink cartridges, and they freed up $50 to $80 million of capital yearly as a component of optimizing their inventory spend. They're essentially the relationship between demand and the inventory they have on hand to be able to produce their products. And why this was so impactful for them is they were able to do it pre-COVID, during COVID, and after COVID, and be able to react to the different types of changes happening and be able to understand and storytell what happens if these things occur and what choices would we be making based upon that. But what made this even more interesting is that as they went down this path, they were able to start predicting the outcomes for their customers and for their suppliers. So they essentially became like the demand inventory forecasting for their customer to make them stickier with that organization, to help them optimize their own ordering and to build a stronger relationship. And they ultimately were able to start charging for that. So like this becomes almost a profit center for an organization to be able to engage in the way that you become sticky with a customer. So a lot of interesting stuff here. If we'll send over the deck, there's a great video about this use case, but it's a fantastic opportunity for an organization to get value from AI and yours. Now, one thing I would call out on this, I just want to note this, many ML use cases, organizations are still banging away on Excel spreadsheets. Like they've got an ERP system where kind of regardless of what it is, Dynamics, SAP, blah, 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 right? They're still like taking that stuff, exporting it to Excel, monkeying with it. It's now no longer the most recent data, and then they're making choices. Some companies, they've gone on and tried SaaS providers. My experience with the SaaS provider space has been you tend to put as much energy in with the SaaS provider as you would just building your own and getting competitive advantage. So my suggestion is get competitive advantage, drive opportunity around machine learning in the supply chain space where you can truly create differentiation from your competitors, and where your models really know you. And this is something that it's really key to this. These truly improve your business if it knows you. And this is where you can gain that opportunity. Okay, let's get into the prediction space. Prediction is like essentially anything that you're doing. So this is an example of a company that's over in Waukesha, Heraeus Electronite. And what they do is essentially melt metal and turn it into composites. So like if anybody remembers like Terminator 2, right? You like in Terminator 2, Arnold's being lowered into the big vat of molten metal, like same kind of idea, right? Except they need to measure it and know if they're gonna have a problem with that production process. And if they do have a problem, they have to throw it out. And that's a very expensive error. So what this AI is doing is helping them to predict how they produce that on the floor product. And why I think this is really interesting is it's an example of the relationship between IT and OT. So a lot of times these OT platforms, they're like siloed walled gardens in many cases because the thing's running on XP. In this case, we built a one-way interface to that OT environment to enable them to be able to get that information and allow them to be able to make accurate choices about how they're running their production process by integrating with their OT network. Great opportunity for them to be able to gain improvement. So this is an example of prediction impacting a business process. But then the next example takes it up another notch. This is an example of prediction impacting prenatal care. So this is a company called Paragen, and what they do is they track a lot of things, but they track fetal heart rate. So like, I don't know if anyone has had a baby recently. I had one. I didn't have one. My wife had one about 4 months ago. And what you have in the room where you're having the baby is this little ticker tape comes off, and it's doing the fetal heart rate and the heart rate of the mother. And what this does is it digitizes it and then provides an interpretation of what's going to happen in the future in alignment with what it thinks is going to happen. And why I think this is really important is people are always like, what about hallucinations? What about like what about the quality and so on? Well, this is where like if you get this wrong and there's negative outcomes to a person. And this is where we're using capabilities like this in conjunction with the doctor to be able to provide very excellent outcomes that wouldn't have existed before with a human just looking at what happened in the past and trying to interpret that themselves. So many opportunities that are provided. And this is enabling this to be able to be engaged, not just for the mother, but also up to 4 babies that would exist inside of the womb. So really awesome capabilities as a result of AI. All right, and then something very similar to this, I want everybody to put in the chat, what do you think is in this video? What is this an image of? I'll give you a second. What is this an image of? Bricks, not bricks. Okay, so this is, I had one person say, it's a colon. It's not a colon. This is the inside of a pipe. That's the image, by the way, it's talking. This is the inside of a pipe. And what this company does is it goes inside of the pipe and it looks for errors within that pipe that are not errors like cracks and other problems. Like one of the things that I didn't know until we engaged this organization was how much water waste there is, like both from a like output and input stance, and how much these cracks create problems for like the businesses or fields or whatever that exists around these pipes. So what this company does is they go down in the pipes and they look for these problems and then they correct them. And I've never done this, but I have watched Shawshank Redemption, and I know that crawling inside of one of those pipes would be really awful. So what this does is it goes inside the pipe and it looks for those kinds of errors, and it finds them, and then it says like issue found, right? So it indicates where those problems are and where they should focus their energy. And why this is so important is because it provides the opportunity for an organization to be able to optimize the work done by the human. Humans aren't really good at just like watching continuous video, right? They get tired, they blink, they're not focused. This is an ability for us then to look at specific things and do something about it. And I think it's really kind of game-changing idea. And this gets even better as you start enabling GPT-B versus kind of historical training techniques. Okay, let's talk about customer intelligence. Two examples I want to hit on here. So the first example is about where's my order. So in this example, you can see we have green on our delivery cycle, but we have this yellow section that represents an unknown. And then we also have this section where we don't have data at all. Oftentimes humans look at this and there's an upset customer, and the customer says, well, where's my order? When is it getting to me? So the person runs around, this individual who did this job, she told me her job is to be the human connector of digital systems. And I'm like, wow, that's very interesting. And I understand, because these systems are not connected to each other. I can't provide that data. And she spends a lot of her time asking questions of people as to when stuff's going to be delivered. And what they're seeking to do, and have been successful at, is to start to predict what are the gaps within that delivery process and what are their delivery times based upon what we know, using artificial intelligence to be able to provide that information back. So this goal of this platform is to say, how do I provide that data back? And then doing so through a customer asynchronous experience where they can ask those questions of the supply chain and provide that answer back. So when the customer calls in and says, what's the status of order X? It can provide you the answer to what the status of order X is, because we've done the legwork to be able to enable it to be able to tell the answer back and to be able to be better than potentially what the human could do on their own, because what it enables is leveraging artificial intelligence to be able to do prediction against that supply chain. So your goal here is to set better expectations. The Domino's Pizza Tracker, as it stands in this use case, is going to set better expectations because it's able to bring all that data together and provide more outcome, more data back. Another thing, I'm going to just keep this up for a second. Another thing I don't have an image of, but I think is really interesting example, is where data can be surfaced to provide more information back as a service, as a value. So I have a company I work with. They're a $50 billion food distributor, and they make all their money by distributing food. It's extremely low margin. So they'll engage customers and deliver low margin food distribution to those companies. But what you probably also know is that the restaurant business is extremely difficult to do business as, right? The rate of restaurants that fail is like 9 out of 10. So what this company knows is, what are the successful restaurants doing? What are they buying at? What kinds of products are they using? How often do they buy? What price do they buy it at? What do they sell it at? And they can start to understand what a successful restaurant looks like versus what a non-successful restaurant looks like. So they can actually sell back that information to their customer to help them to be able to be more successful, so less restaurants go out of business. And it essentially also creates a very sticky relationship with them and enables them to get into a higher margin business because they're able to leverage the data. And this is really disruptive space, is how do I create an entirely new way of doing business with my customers based upon what I know about them? And this is where you're seeing not just using data to provide like what Netflix show should I watch, but even more so to create an entirely new understanding of how I provide recommendations back. Same kind of idea we're seeing in the financial services space about next best action. Like what action should, rather than me like calling my financial representative every quarter and saying, oh yeah, cool, looks okay. Like what if it was giving me more real-time information about what I should be doing with my portfolio so I can be making better choices? So a lot of opportunity from the data state. Okay, let's talk about process automation. Process automation is one of the richest opportunities because it's just things that we do a lot. So anytime in the process automation space, you're doing a process. So this is customer contract automation. So customer contract automation is about analyzing a purchase order, matching that sales order with a production order, validating it before it goes to production, and then executing. This is a step in a series of steps that a person has to go through to make sure that we're producing the right thing, especially in high value production. Each of those steps take time. Each of those steps realize something or find something. Like maybe I don't have all the parts, or perhaps I ordered it wrong, or I actually quoted it wrong to the customer. I'm building the wrong thing. All these steps are important to make sure we have better customer sat. So a lot of times when people have humans running through these processes, but a lot of times they don't need to look at each of these documents because most of them are pretty cut and dry. So what you can do is have AI run that process and validate it. And then if there's something that AI can't do, have an exception to the human intervention. Have an exception where the human is getting a subset of those processes, probably the most important ones for them to look at to take action about. So this is an example of taking information from text layout, pulling that information out into a markdown table, and then that being sent into extracted JSON that I can use to be able to automate any flavor of product. So this is taking it straight from an image into Markdown into JSON. I can then also take that from images, from other assets, and automate it. And where this has gotten really amazing is GPT-4 has taken the ability for us to do text analysis and turns that up to another notch where I couldn't do it before because I hadn't trained it on certain types of things. Now I'm able to further extend that to be able to provide more value back into like the automation of the process. So this is huge. Like anything you just going through a list of things that you do often and finding opportunities where automation will let your organization scale rather than scaling by adding more people is a great opportunity for us to be able to create real outcomes. Okay, I want to show you the last example that I've got here, which is smart products. And this is where you're taking the thing that you create for your customers and you're enabling it with AI. And this is Brunswick's smart boating platform. What they're doing with the smart boating platform is they're having a goal of being a leader in digital boating. And by being a leader in digital boating, that means connected boat experience. Is the battery charged up? Is someone on my boat? Am I geofencing it while it's in the harbor? Should I even be boating today? Is the weather going to be great? Should I be taking this boat to Fayette? Or are the waves going to be too significant for it? Like enabling me to have a great on-boat experience, building AI right within our product. You should earlier this week, Rockwell announced with Microsoft their Factory Talk platform has a co-pilot built in to enable their users to be able to gain value from AI right within their Factory Talk platform. So if you build a product or you deliver a service, now's the time to be thinking about how does my product have AI injected into itself to deliver value? How does my customer get that value? And that's where simply by having the product-oriented mindset, by continuing to build more capability and enabling as a digital product, not simply a physical product or a person product, enables us to deliver more capabilities. Accompany the product you're building with that new capability to deliver value. Okay, so a couple closing comments. Before you leave today, I want you to fill out the survey. And the reason why I want you to do that is couplefold. One, I want to get feedback and want to continue to improve and provide more data back to you and help you to gain more value from AI. But then in addition to that, we want to help you gain that progress. So in that survey, you can sign up for us to help you bring this kind of presentation to your internal users. We can do art of the possible for you. We can bring that art of the possible to your executives. We can help you with doing the envisioning sessions and ultimately building AI-enabled applications to create value for your organization. So go fill out the survey, indicate how we can help, and we would love to do it. We will do those first 3 steps on us. So we will do envisioning on us. We'll do executive meetings on us. We'll help you with creating and selecting the right scenarios on us. We want to help you gain forward movement with AI. That is the reason for our business existing. We want you to gain value in revenue production or operational savings. If you're enabling M365 Copilot, we had a whole session on that a couple weeks ago. We can help you gain forward movement on the Copilot space as well. And this is a tremendous opportunity for you to get the commodity capabilities of your organization raised up a level. So I'm super privileged with the opportunity to be able to be with you today. I just love all the conversations about AI, and I especially love showing you things that we're doing in customers. It makes me really proud of what we're doing. I would love now to take any questions that you have. So I'll just kind of open up the mic and would love to dig into any of these use cases, answer any questions, and kind of dive into wherever you guys want to ask away. So we got about 8 minutes for that. So go ahead, guys and gals, put out your questions, or you can either go off mic or you can put it into the chat. Either one of those is fine. Wow, I guess I hit all the topics. Even my awkward pause didn't work, and I didn't get a question. So that's totally cool. I would love to answer any further questions one-on-one, offline, or as a follow-on. I am super just thankful for all of you coming and sticking around and watching all the different aspects of this today. Would love to have a follow-on session with you. Would love to do envisioning. Would love to talk more. And I hope you all have a really wonderful rest of the day. Thank you. No, actually, I didn't do the presentation. I did not produce the presentation with AI, which is probably something that I could have done, but I did not produce the presentation with AI. That would have been a nice touch for the future. All right, see you guys. Thank you. Have a great day.